Hi everyone who's joined. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. Okay guys, we'll get started, otherwise I'm just going to be sitting here staring at the screen. So welcome again to one of our amazing Talk with Peer-to-Peers, and happy Thursday. Thank you all for joining. So today we're going to be covering stereotyping and self-value. And we're going to have an amazing guest come on who actively works with young people, and we're just going to be having a conversation as per usual. If anyone's got any questions or anything like that, please feel free to put them in the comment box or just send them directly to me. So as I always do, I start off with the statistics. So the first one is a quarter of girls and young women aged 11 to 21 say that they feel less confident as a result of gender stereotypes. 51% of 7 to 21-year-old girls and women say that gender stereotypes affect what sport and exercise they do. And the final one is more than 2/3 of 14 to 17-year-olds believe negative portrayals of teenagers in the media are affecting their job prospects. So today in our chat, we're just going to be covering what stereotypes are initially. And I would say that my definition of a stereotype is just labelling someone based on their appearance or based on their age. It's basically discriminating against someone for their age, what they look like, etc., and labelling them with something that may not necessarily be true. So we're going to be just discussing the stereotypes that affect young people nowadays, and also speaking about how young people feel about themselves at the moment and all the external contributing factors that are affecting them and affecting their mental health as well. So we're going to have our amazing guest join. So Carl, if you have joined, please request and I'll get you on. So just bear with me, guys. Technical problems today. Oh no. Right, bear with me. Oh, hello.
Hi, you're right.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Welcome to Talk with Peer-to-Peer. It's lovely to
Thank
have
you.
you on.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. So everyone, guys, this is our amazing guest, Carl. And he's just going to go through what he does, the work that he does with young people. And so I'm going to pass it over to you. And if you want to just explain to everyone exactly what you do.
I do quite a lot. Well, I have done quite a lot. Currently I'm a class teacher at a school for children with SEMH needs, so social emotional mental health needs. Prior to that, I was a class teacher in mainstream,
Okay.
working mainly with year 6. Before I went into teaching, I was a learning mentor. Before I did that, I worked in various different support roles. So I was a teaching assistant, I was lunchtime staff, I did special needs one-to-one, I worked and looked after children. So there's a massive variation of things that I've done.
Actively been working with young people
Yeah.
for very long time, it
Yeah,
sounds.
it's been about 11 or 12 years now that I've been doing it.
That's amazing. So you know your stuff. You really do know your
Hopefully,
stuff.
yeah.
Well, we wouldn't have you on here if you didn't. So that should be a bit reassuring. So like I said before, sorry, my battery was low. We're just going to be covering stereotypes and self-value within young people. So your experience of working within a mainstream school and then actually moving over to a special needs school as well, what kind of stereotypes or have you experienced young people kind of doubting themselves or not having a lot of self-value or
Massively,
yeah, do you want to give us
massively.
some examples? I love hearing stories.
Um, it's it's a difficult one to think of someone in particular,
Okay.
but a lot of it is there's always that backhanded competition that you don't realize is there. So I think the first bit of competition comes from your peers. Like you see who you're sitting next in the classroom, who you're walking to school with, who's walking the opposite direction to you going to a different school. Especially I found with like the year sixes when I worked with them, that's when they walk past the secondary lot, that's where I'm going to next. So you get to a stage I found, not just where I've worked more recently, but in other schools, they get to year six and the year seven mindset kicks in.
Yeah.
Because they see their next peer group and how they are, and then I need to be like that now. I need to establish myself into that now.
Yeah.
But they haven't given themselves that chance to figure out exactly who they are as leaders of the school, in a sense. So that's what's kind of drummed into them in primaries. You get to year six, you're the top dog, you're
Yeah.
the one that everybody looks up to, but they're already looking beyond that. And I
Yeah.
think it's because everything is so out there in their peer group. They see it. The kids are a lot more independent now than they probably were before, like when I went to school, definitely. And then you've got everything after school. You've got social media is probably the devil, but you've got that side of it where even people their age, you've got like the young kids watching YouTube, and you've got these kids earning millions of pounds opening
Yeah.
kinder eggs and stuff, and it's like there's always something else they want to be before they even figure out who they are.
Yeah.
Which it's a little bit upsetting because there's a slight ambition behind it. Like they want to be like somebody else, and it's a good thing in a sense. But then, have they been given enough of a chance and an opportunity to actually know who they are first before
Yeah.
they try to emulate somebody else? And
I
I
can,
think that's where the brain fog comes into it.
yeah, 100%. I completely agree. I feel like nowadays, especially with the exposure that young people have got to social media, I mean, good and bad. I mean, I've had so many conversations about social media on here, and I just want to reiterate that I'm not saying that social media is the worst thing ever invented. It's amazing. It's been an amazing platform for so many things.
100%.
And I also believe that as much as it can be a detriment to young people, it can also be amazing because there are some really, really inspirational people that have found themselves on social media and are promoting a lot of body positivity, diversity, all of these kind of things. There are so many, but on the flip side, you've got so many people that are portraying this image of this is how you should look in 2020 or 2021. And but a lot of young people, it's unrealistic. It's an unrealistic goal, and that's where they start to doubt their self-value. That's where it comes in with self-value. They start looking at themselves like they're unworthy, or they think they're not good enough because they don't look like that. And a lot of these young people are actually aspiring to be people that aren't necessarily real.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily being their true selves. It's all just for social media. So I think it's important for us as parents. I mean, I don't know if you've got kids. Have you got kids?
Not yet. Not yet. But
Not yet.
I do have two young nieces.
Okay, so there you go. You've got two young girls in your life that you will have an active place to play, an active part to play in their lives, and especially them being born in this kind of era, and their generation is just it's off the rails, right? So what we try to do here at Peer to Peer as well is, as much as all of our focus is on young people, that's our main thing, is young people. We want to ensure that they're being educated in the correct ways, and they're not being exposed to things that aren't suitable for them. But it's also about educating parents as well. So from you working in schools, what do you speak about what do you speak to parents about if you were to come across a student who had really low self-esteem, was just really insecure, didn't think they were amazing, constantly criticized themselves in their work? What would you do in that situation as a teacher? Because obviously you guys are probably the most important people, one of
Yeah,
the important people in young people's lives. What would you do?
it's a bit of a thing that I kind of do. Like, I'm the biggest gasser. I will gas anybody up. And I've said to, like, I've only actually been teaching for about 2 years now.
Okay.
And with any kind of, even when I was mentoring, any child I've worked with, any class that I've had, I've always said to them, you could say to me that you want to build a McDonald's on the moon.
Yeah.
To everybody else, that might sound like the most unrealistic thing possible. But my job as your teacher is to put everything in place for you to make that seem like you could open up a book and do it tomorrow. Like, you
Yeah.
can walk somewhere and do it tomorrow. So when it comes to like the smallest, tiniest thing, or even the biggest, most outrageous thing, you have to make it be believable because you believe in them. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that is what's missing, because for some reason, I think it's partly like you were saying about social media and all that kind of stuff. It's everything's about money.
Mm.
It's what's going to get me somewhere quickly. And I feel like passions are kind of being lost
Yeah.
because everyone's focused on, I need to have that Lamborghini that
Yeah.
person's got. I need to be wearing those Balenciagas that person's got. And then there's no passion behind anything.
Yeah.
And for me, I like to take the time to find those passions in the kids that I work with. And I will do the most that I possibly can to try and put things in place for them.
Yeah.
So I've got a kid that I'm working with at the moment that's in my class, and we were talking about the next steps beyond school, like going to college,
Mm.
etc. And one of the things that he was interested in seemed a bit unrealistic, only because of the competition
Mm-hmm.
going into sports, very competitive. So then we looked at other options, and he came in a few days later and he was like, do you know what, Carl, I've been thinking about going this way instead. I was like, right, come sit here, laptop's open, let's look at college courses, let's look at apprenticeships, let's look at potential earnings, let's look at all of these things that can make that possible. And I said to him, the next thing that you need to do, now you know that's reachable for you, you need to work alongside me. Like,
Mm.
there's kind of this, there's still a very fractured relationship with teachers and children and families,
Mm.
because we are the professionals.
Yeah.
And for some parents that didn't have a positive school experience, that's really scary for them.
Mm.
You kind of get that fear of intimidation, like, oh, my child's teacher needs to talk to me. I feel
Mm.
like I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
So like, it's trying to break that down, and it's balancing the professionalism of that as well.
Yeah.
I'm the most professional, unprofessional person, because the way I see it, between the hours of 9 and 3, or whatever the school hours are, depending on the school, I'm your parent.
Mm.
You're my child. Like, I need to do everything for you as an individual, do everything for all of the kids as a class, because it comes back on me. Like, I can teach you how to read, how to write, how to do a science experiment, but I need to prepare you for everything else beyond that as
The
well.
work.
Yeah,
The,
there's a massive world
yeah.
out there, and this school is the tiniest compartment. It's only, what, 14, 15 years out of your entire life, and then
Yeah.
you've got the rest of it. And we only have them for one academic year, but there's so much that you can do in the academic year, and it's about gassing them to the point where they don't necessarily need to rely on you as much for that support, but
Mm-hmm.
then they start to believe in themselves a lot more, and it's hard work. Like, and I think for me personally, the best thing that I did before I went into teaching was to do all of the support roles beforehand,
Yeah.
because I can step into a classroom and I can be, all right, I need to put my teacher hat on today. We
Mm.
need to learn how to write a formal letter. But then I can take that off and be like, you've got stuff going on. I know how to help you overcome that barrier.
Mm.
So it is teaching is the biggest juggling act ever, but it's so like deeply rewarding.
Yeah.
And lockdown made me realize that, because I missed out on the end of year with my year
Oh.
sixes last year. So there's a few kids in my class, I didn't see them leave. Like, the last time I saw them was literally this time last year. We didn't do our end of year stuff and all of that, but we had to do like a yearbook. And
Mm.
the comments that I got back, like when I sent out the assignment, like, yeah, just write a little comment what you've enjoyed this year. And the amount of them that wrote things back, like, it sounds a bit big-headed, but it was like, I don't feel like I would have survived this year without Carl. I
Oh.
don't feel like Carl helped me realize who I can actually be. And it's like little things like that. That's what we need to kind of drum in as much. Like, I can't walk into work and tell the kids that I love them, because that's weird. But in everything that I do, in the classroom, outside of the classroom, even working with families in the situation where I might need to, they can feel that I care for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes that's what's missing, especially with school, is sometimes it's too academic.
Yeah.
We need to put a bit more care, and that's like where I'm working at the moment. The biggest thing, everything is about social, emotional, mental health.
Mm.
If that foundation isn't there, we can't do more.
No.
That's the barrier that we have to overcome. And I feel like, especially with what's happened over the last year with lockdown and isolations, back and forth, yo-yo in between
Mm.
being able to leave your house and not, a lot more children are going to have that barrier.
Yeah.
And we need to genuinely show that we do care about them, not just in school, but at home. And even if it's not your child, your
Mm.
niece, your nephew, your friends' kids, you need
Yep.
to show them and give them that time. They need that space. They need to vent. They need to be kids. Like, that's what's missing. Like, that element of childhood is massively missing. Everybody wants to grow up too quickly.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I think, I mean, the comments say enough, but it's literally like a breath of fresh air to hear a teacher speak so passionately, first of all, about his kids, but also so passionate about not just teaching the
Mm.
kids, but actually being being there for them. Because I just think back to my experience of being in school, and I know that the subjects that I did better in were the subjects that I had a teacher that I had a good relationship with.
100%.
So all the teachers that were like, I remember my science teacher saying, well, I don't care what you are doing, I get paid at the end of the day anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, like that kind of mindset? And that stayed with me. That stayed with me till I'm a grown adult. I'm nearly 27 years of age, and there's certain parts of school that stay with me. So that's why it's so important to be filling these kids up with as much motivation, passion, good vibes, all of
Yeah.
these things. It's literally so important to be injecting these kids with it. So when I look at so I've got a little boy, for example, and just talking about aspirations and what his goals are in life. I remember when he first got like a tablet of some sort, and he was starting to understand technology and my
Mm-hmm.
phone and stuff like that, and he was going on YouTube and he was looking at these kids playing with Kinder eggs, and that Ryan kid, whatever, who's made millions now from literally just playing with his toys
Yeah.
and speaking about it on Instagram, on YouTube, sorry. And even up until maybe like last year, he was still saying, oh, I'd want to be like a YouTuber or something. And that's literally, if you ask most kids nowadays and you say to them
That's
what,
it.
that's all the
YouTuber.
response is, it's like
Yeah.
they've turned into little robots. And that's why I've sat down and spoke to him numerous times. I said to him, what do you want to do when you're older? And he says, I'm not too sure, maybe a chef, because he loves cooking. He loves
Mm-hmm.
coming in the kitchen with me. He loves getting involved. He has done since he was very young. And so I said to him, I was like, that's amazing for him to say like an actual another job or
Yeah.
occupation other than being a YouTuber. I was like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God he's not completely ruined yet. Yes, come on. But I think also what's so important is at home we try and show him as much as many aspirations as possible, and show him that we are working parents.
Yeah.
We don't just come home with designer clothes because we're out here selling drugs or doing something that is not really substantial. It's not something that's going to last.
Yeah.
And so I feel like us putting that into him should hopefully have a positive effect. But with your experience, especially of working with SEMH children
Mm-hmm.
and young people, what I don't want to ask too much because I don't want you to have to speak about people's business or whatever, but the situations that they've got at home, are they not getting the support at home as well, or they are and the parents are just working alongside the school, or is it a combo?
It's varied, and it's pretty much the same in every school. Like, it wasn't until I first started working in schools that I realized to some extent, I had a very privileged upbringing.
Yeah.
You take a lot of stuff for granted until you see something. I've worked with kids that have been through horrendous things that you wouldn't even imagine, and you still see them come to school every day. And you're like, how do you manage to cope as a child? Like, I couldn't cope with that as an adult. And now, nothing shocks me now. Like, in all the times I've been working with kids, there isn't really anything that shocks me. And I find if you have the right people in a school that are there for the right reasons, home life doesn't really matter as much, because there's still people that those kids know actually care about them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really know how much I can say without going too much into like,
but yeah, no,
but
I understand.
it varies. There's some families that are definitely alongside schools. There's some that are completely against schools.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about recent experience at all. This is going back to when I was a member of support staff and I was doing like one-to-ones, because I had to have more of a relationship with that child. So I knew more about their background. But there have been times where, it's heartbreaking, because no matter what you do, once they leave those school gates, everything's been undone, because it's not being followed up at home. And there's been children that I've worked with where I've literally, like, it's got to the end of the day, I'm like, I wish I could just take this child home with me.
Oh God.
Because I don't want to bash people's parents. I don't want to do that at all. But you see things through a different pair of eyes when you don't have to look at the same subject every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's times when it's heartbreaking and it's disheartening. But you can't be in the profession of education if you're easily disheartened.
Yeah.
Because the moment that those kids see you give up, they give up. Yeah. Sometimes you are literally like the last finger hanging onto the edge of that cliff for them. And as soon as you let go, they start falling. And to try and get them to climb back up that mountain is now impossible.
Yeah, yeah.
So even you have to do things behind closed doors. Like, teaching is the only job that I can think of that has the most amount of overtime that cannot be billed. Because I could be lying in my bed and be like, I need to think of what I can do to get that child to engage in maths tomorrow morning. What can I do to make addition easy for this one? How can I get this one to finally be able to spell Wednesday correctly?
Yeah.
And all of that stuff, it takes time. Like, it's draining. The whole summer holiday, I'm like, I'm getting a new class. What can I do to engage them? How can I make my classroom look inviting? But I've realized, even after my NQT year, it doesn't matter what I've got like on the walls in my classroom. It's what I come in and what I give. Because anybody can stand in front of a classroom and deliver a lesson. Anyone can pick up a lesson plan. This is what we're doing. Go do it. You might get the outcomes, but you don't see that personal growth.
Yeah.
And it might not be in conversation that growth happens. It might be that child started to do a little bit more work. That child's put their hand up twice today rather than only once. And those are the little things that you need to look for. And there is no display that you can put up in a classroom that is going to make that happen. It's what you personally deliver. Yeah.
We've actually got a question from one of our lovely viewers. So it says, how do you draw the line so you protect your energy?
I talk a lot to my sister. So one of my sister has 2 kids. Another one of my sisters is also a teacher. So we will have those conversations. And the school I currently work in is bang on communication and staff well-being. Like, it's a big thing. Staff well-being is massive, because ultimately, if you're drained, you can't deliver. Yeah. So hello Tyler, by the way. Someone I know is just joined. Yeah, if you don't have it in you, you can't deliver. So we have those conversations every day after school. We will sit there, what's worked, what hasn't worked, how are you feeling? And that is your time to literally vent. Because you have a right to be angry, you have a right to be annoyed, you have a right to be frustrated. And a lot of people will bottle that, take it home, never let it go until it starts to destroy them. Like, you have to have that. Like, there's times when I will literally have to walk out of the classroom for 2 minutes because I've put everything that I think I have in and I need to leave. And that's because I'm getting to a point where in my head I'm like, I could give up. If I was that kind of person, I could just be like, you know what, let's forget it, let's move on. Yeah. But I'm a very stubborn person. I'm not giving up on that. So you have to give yourself those opportunities to regroup and have those conversations with colleagues and other staff in the school. And like for me personally, I will speak to family. We have a massive, we like to vent, we like to discuss things. So it's just having those people that are willing to listen.
I'm not a teacher at all. I mean, I've done through peer-to-peer. I've done delivered numerous sessions just on the subjects that we actually deliver. And I know sometimes I remember there being one lesson, and I'm not going to say the name of the school, but I was in this classroom, and obviously I've got 30 kids in there, and you're talking to them about sex, and you're talking to them about things that are so taboo in school. It's like, oh my God, she just said the word sex, or she just
Yeah.
said penis. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, it's the biggest thing. And this class was just doing my nutting. I could not even explain to you the frustration and anger that I felt being in that classroom, and they just weren't listening. They were talking, and I'm not like bigging myself up, but I would say that I have very good classroom management. Normally the kids are very engaged, they're listening to what I'm saying, because I make it fun. I go round and I sit on their tables, and I literally sit down with them and speak to them about it and get on with it with them. I don't just give them a subject or give them a topic or an activity and then just sit by the computer. I don't do that, and that's me not being a qualified teacher. And that was one class out of all the sessions that I've delivered that I came out of that classroom and I was like, I actually feel like I want to cry. So the thought of having to go in, day out to do that, this is why I have so much respect for teachers, because what you guys do, it's not just a job. It's not. It's a whole lifestyle. It consumes your lives. And it's not just a thing of like, oh, I can't be bothered to do any work tonight, so I'll just do it in the morning.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that at all.
In the morning, mate, you can't be leaving nothing to the last minute.
No.
So for you to be doing that, and I mean, by the sounds of it, you sound like you're so invested in it as well, which is amazing. And I think kids are very, very lucky to have someone like you in their classroom delivering subjects. But just kind of moving on to, we've been speaking a lot about self-value, which is amazing, but just moving on to like stereotypes within young people or stereotypes of young people. So I mean, the most common ones I would say are like young people are lazy, young people, they only want to get up to no good, they're not employable, all of those kind of things that are pretty much 9 times out of 10, they're untrue. I mean, that 1%, you're probably going to have so many young people that have got no drive, got no ambition, they don't want to do anything with their lives, and that's fair enough. But I do believe that a lot of young people, and it is down to race as well, I'll be completely honest, it's down to race as well, that they're just painted with the same brush, and I find that extremely unfair. So within schools, what kind of stereotypes did you face? What stereotypes do you know of? I mean, I've just mentioned a few, but when it comes to young people, what do you what have you experienced?
I find the hardest thing when you're a teacher going from year to year is the handover process.
Okay.
Because you have that one-to-one with the previous teacher and you go through the pupils, and I hate it. I don't hear it.
Yeah.
Because I go in with a conception already.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I don't want you to tell me about them. I want to find out about them myself.
Okay. Do they look at you, because I'm guessing you're relatively young?
Yeah.
Do they also potentially stereotype you as well and just assume?
Oh, massively. Before I started teaching, I used to so like part of my job when I was mentoring was I used to do gate duty.
Yeah.
So I'd be out on the gate in the morning welcoming the kids in, and I had parents asking me like, "Oh, so you get paid a lot? Like you've got a lot of jewelry on?" So, oh, so what do you do sports? Like, no, like
Oh
I
my
don't.
God.
And it's funny because part of when I was doing my degree, my dissertation was on men in schools and masculinity and how that affects particularly young black boys.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm based it on the demographic where I live and where I work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the majority, even though we are a minority. And it's relatable to me because I, at one point, was a young black boy in the school.
Yeah.
And when I was doing my research, the perceptions haven't changed since probably when my dad was in school.
Yeah.
So At that point, the focus was on Black Caribbean boys. The focus hasn't really changed in nearly 50 years.
Yeah.
We're still looking at why are young Black ethnic minority boys in particular underachieving.
Yeah.
And I would argue that it's not just, I think kids in general are potentially massively underachieving, and that's because we curriculum for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Everything they learn, you can no longer relate to modern life.
Yeah.
And that clicked for me massively with the most recent lockdown and the distance learning. There was a rush. Oh my gosh, these kids don't have technology. We haven't taught lessons online. We haven't delivered anything that they can create things online. That's because we're stuck in such an archaic education system of we need to put pen to paper. I can't tell you the last time I handwrote a letter to anybody.
Yeah.
I did all of my school from the time I hit college. I don't think I put pen to paper again.
Yeah.
Because that world doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yes, we still need to teach them how to write formally. We still need to teach them how to conduct a letter. We still need to do all of those types of writing styles, for example. But that pen to paper world doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And everything that they're learning about, even in science, is very outdated in humanities. Like, my argument massively with history and geography is if you look at the amount of schools nowadays that are academies, and when schools academize, they don't have to follow the national curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So why do schools not amend their curriculum to be reflective of their workforce? Their kids, your kids are the workforce. So I would engage more in something that I can relate to. It's like I'm not sure if it's an actual quote or whatever, but it's something where it says, "If you can see it, you can be it."
Yeah.
So for me, a young Black man at the front of the classroom, for many of the kids in my class that match my demographic, they see me so they could be me.
Yeah.
A lot of what they're seeing is in their learning. If you can't see yourself in your learning, you can't produce what's necessary because it doesn't relate to you. Like my experience, like my biggest bugbear, I'm gonna like rant for a little bit.
Go for
But
it. Go for it. We
my
love it.
biggest bugbear is Black History Month. I
Oh,
think they
God,
need to get rid of it because there's so much of a rich history in that. How can you condense it to a month? And when I think of the many Octobers that I experienced of Black History Month throughout school, all I learned about was slavery.
Yeah.
I knew
just
nothing else of Black history.
That all that is taught, the majority of what is taught in Black history
Is the downfall of a specific race.
Black people experiencing trauma.
Yeah.
That's literally what Black History Month is and taught.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you 100%. To be honest with you, when I look at Black History Month, or when I have looked at Black History Month in the past, it's not something that I've really engaged in. When it's a Black Lives Movement, or if it's just educating people on things that Black people are doing, or just educating people on history in general, is better than someone, or better than me trying to just educate someone solely just on Black history.
Yeah. Because it can be weaved through everything. It can be weaved through everything. I remember when the Black Lives Matters movement kicked off in the first lockdown after George Floyd. This was legit, coincidentally, was just as the government allowed the year sixes to go back. So I had a few kids from my class come back, and that was all they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And they literally said, I remember one of my pupils said to me, "Carl, why are we still fighting for the rights of Black people? Why is everyone not being treated fairly?" So every day I was putting up different questions, just like for them to think about, just like a little morning starter, get your brain working. And I had things on there like, why does your life matter more than anybody else's? Who's responsible for making change? All of those kind of things. And what's missing from school is empowerment. Kids are not being empowered. Because what people fail to realize is for people like me, the kids I teach are going to be the ones that make decisions for me as an adult. I'm not going to make anything that I do now probably isn't going to have an effect in my lifetime. But the kids I'm teaching, if the right stuff is being fed into them that they can grasp hold of, that they can connect with, they can take that forward and make changes that is going to be better for everybody else.
Yeah.
At the moment, we're teaching a curriculum that has been around for I don't even know how long.
I don't. how long either.
it doesn't serve the purpose of the people that it's created for.
Yeah.
And something in it needs to change, especially now where you've got all these academies cropping up out of nowhere. You don't have to follow the national curriculum. Know your pupils, like know who's there, and create something that feeds their mind.
This is when it comes in hand with young people's ambitions and drive to want to do anything after they've left school. So when you look at what they're being taught, if they are not engaging and they're not responding to the academic way of learning, they come out of school feeling like, oh, well, I didn't do well in school, so I can't do anything with my life now. So they turn to a road of potentially crime or just doing nothing, just doing nothing, being on the dole, whatever. And not knocking that. If that's what people have to do to be able to survive, then fair enough. But when it comes to young people, them being in an environment where they're not stimulated is ultimately going to affect them in a negative way. Once they're not in that cocoon of school and being told you have to do that, and having the rules and regulations and the like your parents telling you have to go to school every day, or your carers, whoever you live with, telling you to go to school every day, when they come out of that bubble, they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Unless they have some sort of, I don't know, idea exactly of what they want to do and they know exactly the path that they need to take, if they come out and they still don't know what they want to do, where is the support there? There's no tools given to young people to be able to say to them, okay, if you've got to year 12, if you've got to year 11 and you still don't know what you want to do, that's okay. That's okay. Here are your other options. This is what else you could do. You don't necessarily have to go to university. You don't necessarily have to go to sixth form. If you feel like that doesn't work for you, then no, there's apprenticeships. There's on the job courses and schemes and funding schemes, and there's so many different things, but they're not taught about it. They're not taught about it in school, so they don't know. They do not know about their other options, so they come out feeling deflated and, to be honest with you, feeling pretty low because they've probably got low grades. And what also frustrates me about the schooling system, I remember there's, I mean, everyone's seen the picture. It's the picture of the different animals, and it says to them, right, all of you guys go and climb the tree. And giving young people the same opportunities, let me not say opportunities, the same kind of, what's the word that I'm trying to look for? The learning methods. Trying to use the same learning methods with every single child is impossible. It's impossible for it to work or to be beneficial. It's impossible. So that's also another thing that I struggle with, and I look at it like there needs to be some sort of change in the schooling system, because I look at when I went to school, when it came to maths, oh my God, if there is dyslexia for maths, I have okay.
This calculator, I think it's called.
Well, that's what I have. But maths is too bad for me. My brain just does not register it. I mean, I've got better as I've got older because I've had to. I mean, I've never used algebra. I've never done anything, but I actually struggle with helping my son with his maths homework because I really struggle with maths. When it came to English, I was flying through English. I came out with 2 Bs, and that was good for me. I was not invested in school whatsoever. Came out with 2 Bs in English. I loved English. Loved it. It was one of my favorite subjects. And I just feel like I worked better and developed better in English because my teacher really focused on me and she worked with me. Whereas in maths, they put you in sets, and if you're in the lowest set, you're just made to feel like you're dumb, like you're not good at anything.
And it becomes like a youth club because
no one's
message is you're in the lower group. We've already given up on you. You have no potential. Stay in your place for an hour a day, and we'll focus on everybody else that is actually going to benefit the school, because GCSEs and SATs and all that kind of stuff, that's not for kids. That's to prove that the school can do their job. And
continue getting funding and all of these things, and you paying people and all of that kind of stuff. So I completely agree. So, I mean, as much as they might, like you said, you was a learning mentor, you was a teaching assistant, as much as you might get people come in and support young people who might be struggling or falling behind in the classroom,
that's not the way to go about it. You need to be changing your learning styles and adapt it to how your students learn.
Yeah.
Even just by the basic thing of the different ways that people can learn. So you've got visual learners, you've got kinetic learners, oral learners, or whatever it is, when you learn by listening. That in itself is like, okay, well, you teach us about the different learning methods or the way that we learn, but you're not adapting your lesson to help with the way that I learn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's difficult. I mean, we've gone off track a little bit, but it's good to have a vent. It's fine. But yeah, I think that ultimately goes hand in hand with young people then fitting into the stereotypes of what people are already labeling them with.
Yeah.
So young people come out with no drive, no ambition. They don't want to do anything. They're just up to no good, blah, blah, blah. But we're not looking at where they've come from.
Yeah.
And trying to address it and change it.
And that's why I take what I do so very seriously, because statistically, I have them somewhere. I will find them, but statistically, it's like I'm going to find it. I've got my laptop here. I'm going to find it.
For it.
It's all in my dissertation. Like, it was my best piece of work, to be fair. I'll find the exact statistic.
Sorry, guys, we're just having a little pause while we get some fab stats.
So it's 59%. I think this is from 2007. 59% of Black Caribbean children and 54% of mixed race youngsters are in single parent households.
Yeah.
And of those single parent households, 91% are led by women.
Okay.
So for me, as a Black man, I am dad.
Yeah.
I just automatically fall into that from when I started in the school at 19, when I could not be anyone's dad, to now at 31, where I possibly could be someone's dad. But I automatically go into that. And for me, when I first started working with kids, it was, there's two things that can happen when you're a man that works with kids. Is you're automatically the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Or you're the sports guy.
Yeah. I'm
not the sports guy. I'm not the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
If I work with a child and they come to me and they're saying, Carl, do you know what? I'm upset, I'm annoyed, I'm whatever. I say, all right, come. If you need to sit here and we need to cry, let's cry. And that's what I find so hard when I look at schools, especially primary schools, because I feel like that's where they need them the most. The lack of men that are in education.
Yeah.
Because
I agree.
We unconsciously fill a void for a lot of these kids.
Yep.
They don't realise it and we don't realise it, but we do. And because that perception of what masculinity is for a lot of kids, because of what they see on TV, because of how they see other people and how other men conduct themselves, when you go in as someone who is open to being vulnerable around kids, who is open to showing emotion and being that nurturing person, it's either massively taken and those kids crave it, or it's rejected because you're not what a man's supposed to be, so I can't connect with you.
Yeah.
And I found like the whole time when I was mentoring, I did it for about 5 years, and the whole time that I was mentoring, I'm not taking you out to play football. I'm not telling you off. We're going to sit and have a discussion, because we need to, especially when it comes to boys, we need to allow them to talk. We need to allow them to be vulnerable. We need to allow them to be emotional.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was growing up, boys don't cry. Boys don't do this. But I don't care what you are. If you need to sit here and cry to make yourself feel better, come and sit with me and cry. I will hold the tissues for you. And that kind of, because of how schools are constructed, like there's no time or space to do that. And it's what so many kids are craving. Like, these kids are emotional.
Yeah.
They are so emotional, and it's so hard to see them try to bottle it up. And all you want to do, like, you obviously safeguarding, you can't hug kids and all that kind of stuff, but you literally just want to like let them let it all out, because they need to, because they're going to places where obviously everyone's home life is different. Like, some people, are coming from a home life where parents are at work all the time.
Yeah.
So they're being dropped off at breakfast club, they're staying for after school club, they're going home, dinner, bath, bed. And that's no parent's fault at all, because we got to live. We got
Yeah.
bills to pay, we need to maintain our kids, we need to do whatever. But schools need to realize, yes, we're teaching these kids, but we need to teach them to how to be people, how to be human. And like you were saying about every child, I want to be a YouTuber, they're robots because they're spending all their time seeing what life is meant to be through somebody else. So that's the one thing I miss, and that I found it very hard to go from being a mentor to a teacher.
Yeah.
Because I did it at a point where I had a few pupils who were going up to year 6, and as they were going to, that's such an important part of primary school. That's like the first major change in any child's life, is leaving what has been secure for like nearly 10 years. No, that's too long, about 8 years, and going on to something else and letting go of relationships and all of that kind of stuff. And I know for a fact, like a lot of the kids, especially the boys that I worked with, they struggle to distance themselves from me because I wasn't able to be all of that in my mind. I'm like, oh, you got a curriculum to follow, you got assessments to do, you've got outcomes to get. And I remember saying to one of the boys that I used to mentor, I said to him, if you ever come to me with a problem and I say to you, I haven't got the time to deal with this, you need to check me, because my time is limitless. Like, I can teach a lesson, I can do whatever, I can get everyone else started, but if you need to talk to me, I can't palm you off, because you're in that school space, you're mine. Like, I need to look after you, I need to take care of you. I can't put my curriculum across to you if there's that barrier up there. So we need to break that down. And that's what they need to be telling teachers when they start training as well. Like, it doesn't take a genius to teach a lesson. I'm not downplaying what teachers do at all. It doesn't take a genius to teach a lesson, but it takes a human being to connect with other people's kids and understand what they're going through and empathize with them, and take that time to not just be, I'm the teacher, you're the pupil. There's that level of respect, but I'm a human, you're a human. We need to connect as human beings.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like I'm speechless because I feel like I've spoken to my soul. I mean, you were talking about the transition for kids, like leaving primary school and moving from year 5 to year 6. And that's where my son is right now. He's in year 5 and he'll be starting year 6. And I'm petrified. I'm absolutely petrified for what kind of road he's going to take. And I have never put pressure on him to succeed academically. I've never put pressure on him, and I have no intentions of doing that.
Yeah, it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. I hated school. I absolutely hated school. I did well with my GCSEs, considering I absolutely despised school. I was like the naughty child, constantly in isolation, constantly on report, constantly screaming and shouting at teachers. It just wasn't for me. I hated it.
Yeah, I was the mouthy one. I'm sure Colin will probably remember. I had no answer for everything.
I also look at it like, if I had a mentor or a teacher like you who was able to work with me on a one-to-one basis, or actually support the way that I needed to be supported. I had anger issues. I had serious anger issues as a young person in secondary school. I was just angry at the world. I hated the world. I was just so angry. That's actually only just stopped a few years ago. But I'm trying. I'm trying my best. But if I had someone to just sit down with me and work with me the way that I needed to be worked with, I can guarantee 100% that my school experience would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. And I feel like there should be something that we do. I feel like there should be something that we do.
I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know exactly what it is or what it looks like.
Into schools.
Yeah.
But something, to just, obviously we're doing the best that we can. Us as peer-to-peer, we are really trying. I mean, I'm not saying it just because I work for the company, but it is really an amazing company. We're an amazing team, and we all have the same thought process when it comes to young people. They are important. That's all that matters. They are important. They deserve to live a good life. They deserve to live a happy life. They deserve to have the same opportunities as other kids who come from different backgrounds or whatever. Every young person deserves the same opportunity. So trying to think of a way that we can implement something into the whole schooling system to change the whole schooling system. I'm just like, oh look, Carly. So Carly works with peer-to-peer. She just said we're sending this live to the education
Go
secondary.
for it. Listen, I'm ready for his job. And now Piers Morgan's gone. I haven't got to worry about him attacking me on Good Morning Britain.
You haven't got to deal with peers abuse, literally. But no, that's amazing. We're gonna have to start wrapping it up because the live will end soon. But just to kind of just wrap up everything that we've said, and just to finish off with stereotypes, I feel like, I mean, there's proof of it, and there's a percentage. My laptop's just died, so I can't get the exact statistic. But the percentage of young people that actually miss out on job opportunities because of stereotypes, I believe is a bigger problem than we think it is.
Massively.
I'll
tell you a funny story, actually.
Go on.
So, this isn't anywhere I've worked recently. This was literally my very, very first job working in school. I worked in a nurture group, which is Key Stage 1. It's the early, before we had a label for social, emotional, mental health. I was working with Key Stage 1, so year 1 and year 2, like 5 or 6. And I came out of working in the bank. This was my first school experience at the age of 19. And I was actually told, you got the job because you're young, black and male, and it's what our kids need. At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is great. And it wasn't until recently, I was like, they fully mugged me off. Like,
oh my God, I'm sorry.
They fully mugged me off. I was so gassed, like, yes, I'm a young black man, this is what everybody needs. But I left shortly after because they didn't support me or anything like that. But yeah.
I mean, with that story, if I was the young black male, I would find that offensive. I can't even lie.
Yeah.
Because I look at that. If someone says that to me, I look at that, right, okay, so you're looking for someone who's got a bit of colour.
Yeah, I looked the part, but I wasn't the part. Wasn't the part.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what you're trying to say. It wasn't because of my education, my abilities to actually teach kids, or my mindset, or whatever. It wasn't anything to do with that. It was just
it was pure face value.
Pure appearance. And I think that's actually a bit derogatory. I can't even lie. It's really bad. But then
before I knew about unions or anything like that, so that's water under the bridge. It came back like a full 360. Yeah, a couple years later, it turned out a job that I was doing elsewhere, I was in charge of transitioning kids out of nurture groups.
Yeah.
And the same person that told me that, I remember we walked into a meeting. She was like, "Oh, you look familiar." And I was like, "Yeah." Because they eventually said, like, they don't think I'm suitable enough to work with kids. They don't think that I should go elsewhere. I should look for a different career path. And then when I then bucked up with this woman, like 6 years later, she was like, "You look familiar." I was like, "Yeah, you told me that I shouldn't work with kids, and now you need me to do your job." Really.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I walked out of that meeting with my head held high.
Yeah. That's amazing. But what I was going to say was, in that situation where you were told that because of the way that you look, that's why you've got that job.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it on the flip side, there's young people that won't get that job because of the same reason.
Exactly.
So stereotyping, I would consider to be so dangerous and so detrimental to young people. Because you got to think as well, I remember when I went on my first ever interview, I was 16, and I went to, do you remember Blue Ink? Yep. So I went there to go for an interview. I'd never been on an interview before, and I was like, right, I'm going to try and get a weekend job just to make some money. I walked in there, did not get the interview, and I felt so heartbroken. But that was purely because I didn't know how to interview, and I didn't really give good answers or whatever. I was only 16. I think I might have even been 15 or 16. I can't remember, 15 or 16. But then I look at, I try to put myself in the same shoes as a young person who has gone into that interview and deliberately did not get that job because of the way that they look. So that's not even necessarily the colour of someone's skin. That could be because someone's got tattoos. That could be because someone's got piercings. They've got coloured hair. They've got I don't know, wonky teeth. I don't know what it is. It's just it's stereotyping someone based on what they look like. And just as a whole, it's just something that I don't agree with. You can't 100%. Look and know who they are just by the way that they look. You can't. You need to speak to that person. You need to feel their
There's
vibe.
probably days where like someone could walk past my classroom and be like, this guy can't seriously be the teacher because I don't look like a teacher. I don't go to work in a shirt and tie.
Yeah,
I don't do that. Summertime is even worse. I've got my Boohoo Man cohorts on,
yeah.
stuff like that. Like, it's because I'm not trying to fit a mold. And I say this to I've said this to a few kids that I worked with. The easiest thing that you can do, especially as a black man, is to put yourself into the mold that was created for you. That's easy. You can be that guy that they think we are. The hardest thing to do, and something that takes the self-confidence and knowing who you are, the hardest thing is to step to the side of that and create your own mold. And I'm not going to be your cookie cutter teacher. I worked overseas for a very short period of time because I thought, when I was doing my training, because I transitioned out of mentoring into teaching, I thought, you know, I need to leave the mentoring behind. I need to focus on being a teacher because this is my career now. So I went and worked abroad in a private school. And within a week, I was like, this is not me. Like, I am a cookie cutter teacher right now. And I was crumbling. Like, I was struggling so much with it because it was not me. Like, I couldn't just be the guy that delivers a curriculum. I'm the biggest clown going when I'm in my classroom. Like, there's always music pumping, where I'm dancing and singing around the classroom because I'm comfortable. And when I was there, I wasn't comfortable. I was in a shirt and tie every day. It just wasn't me. And I'm hoping like what the kids see when I go to work the way I do. Yes, the first thing they say, oh, I like your trainers. Oh, I like whatever. Like, I'm still a professional at the end of the day, and I'm still getting the respect that my career deserves. I'm still being respected by you regardless of how I look.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to kind of like, I think I had my interview in a leopard print shirt. Like, it was ridiculous because that's me. Like, you're not buying into the person on the application form. You're buying into me as a human being. So it shouldn't matter who I am or what I look like.
What you look like.
Yeah, not at all. And I think, you just you have to talk to people at the end of the day. Like, you can't, it's a basic saying, but you really can't judge a book by its cover because
100%.
if they did, I wouldn't be working in schools.
No.
Listen,
if certain places were judging a book by a character, not necessarily with myself. I mean, I've not really experienced any kind of discrimination when it comes to the color of my skin, when it comes to job applications or anything like that. I've never experienced anything like that, but I know that I have had some people look at me sometimes like, oh, that's a big tattoo. And we had so I do nails, and one of my clients just outright went, oh God, I hate tattoos. And you know when you're like,
then don't get one.
So is this tattoo on you or is it on me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just cool off, leave me alone. But I'm gonna have to rush through now. But just quickly, guys, everyone who's watching, just a reminder as well for you, Carl, as well. I don't know if it will work for you guys, but we're more than happy to send it over to you. We actually have created a number of workbooks on the different subjects that we deliver. They're free of charge. All we have to do is just email them over to you and you print them out and give them to your kids. It's full of activities. They just have to fill it out. Like I said, they're free of charge. All we have to do is just email them over to you. So if you feel like you'd be able to use them.
I've got one of them. I've passed it on to, I've gassed you guys up to SLT at my school. So someone should be in touch with you soon to kind of interweave it into what we already do, because a lot of it is very relevant because we're primary right through to secondary.
Yeah.
So it will definitely come in handy and be useful to us.
Heaven to my ears. But Carl, thank you so much for joining. You have been
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed it.
And continue what you're doing, because I'm telling you now, if there were 100 of you in the world, I can guarantee it would be a better place. So just keep doing what you're doing. And
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone else for joining as well. Have a lovely evening and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.